Media.com.
Regime at all, or is it seeming like there's you're kind of losing it? Which is it a positive, optimistic outlook, or are we going to be a little bit pessimistic?
Oh, I'm more optimistic every day, guys. Yeah, 100%. There's thousands of new people who are coming online, who are becoming aware of the authoritarianism in our midst. People who want to get involved, who want to speak out and stand up.
It is true.
I think that this COVID regime is definitely starting to get people thinking, wait a second, do I really want this government this involved in every aspect of my life?
Yeah. In fact, I met like a former lefty who said it wasn't until the COVID lockdowns that she started to reconsider things, which tells me that irregardless of the fact that they've wiped it out from social media for no good reason, the hashtag walkaway movement is still a thing.
100%. Yeah, the Libertarian Party is growing tremendously. I'm a member of the Libertarian Party of Colorado. We're doing really exciting things there.
Nerds.
Yeah. By the way, Libertarians of Colorado, if you're listening to the radio broadcast here in Northern Colorado and you want to come hang out with myself, Bucky, Kevin, and Brandon, we are having our kickoff Weld County Libertarian Development Group hangout. It's not going to be very formal because at this point, I'm mostly trying to find that core group. I'm trying to identify the people that are going to show up consistently and that have the personality types and the skills to become possibly a secretary, a treasurer, a media guy, and a handful of activists who want to get involved. But
Larimer County is doing the same thing. I am the development group head of Larimer County as well. Bucky's a little bit ahead of me on the game here, but we are both actively looking for people in both Weld and Larimer County that want to participate more with the Libertarian Party, want to be more involved, want to actually start participating in the change that we're trying to bring about in our country right now.
Right. But tonight, because we're just trying to identify who that core group is going to be, it's a meet and drink.
Yeah.
I'm going to have a good time.
We're gonna
Right?
go to
That's what it's
Cassidy's.
about. We're going to go to Cassidy's. We're going to finally take care of Kevin's appetite.
Yes.
And we're going to get some liquor in
I
our
am
system.
Hungry.
Woo!
I am.
So you hear that, ladies? You
hungry.
want to come hang out with Drunk Bucky, which I assure you is a good idea.
Drunky.
Come on down to 1360 right around 6 o'clock. And if we're not here, we're across the street.
Yeah, no, well, I don't know about Drunk Bucky, but semi-sober Kevin's a lot of fun. So, so it's going to be a great time. Cassidy's has great food. And yeah, we're just going to be going over what we need to do, kind of who's around us, who's willing to participate to help people like Brandon in their pursuit of a free Colorado.
Yeah. So you're exposing politicians. You're exposing bills that are in the works or bills that are being currently instated. What's going on in Colorado?
Well, it's hard to find sometimes. The mainstream media is garbage.
Yeah.
They basically work with the political class. I don't know if you see what's going on, but most people probably do. The listeners at 1360 probably see what's happening in our state. Where
And if you could tell by our
he's
by
doing it again. You are talking about now the mainstream media as if these people aren't just wonderful human beings with your best interest at heart. I do not appreciate the demonization of the wonderful.
yeah,
I
they're
can't say it.
disproportionately white, by the way. So that is racial discrimination, I would say.
Yeah,
But if you listened to the radio broadcast and you heard our outrageously long, drawn out, vibey intro, then we are not mainstream.
but if you made it through the 17 minutes of introduction music to get here, yeah, no. But I apologize for interrupting there. You were talking about how you're working to expose some of the corruption, the corrupt ties between our local corporate media overlords and our local politicians.
Oh, 100%. They're the gatekeepers for the information. There are thousands of people in Colorado who are standing up, who are speaking out, but nobody hears about it. It's hard for people to know that people are standing up, doing things that are in opposition to this authoritarian COVID measures we've been seeing over the last year. And so part of what I want to do is bring that up. I mean, unfortunately, we just saw Larimer County push a mask mandate back again. So starting next Wednesday, October 20th, unfortunately, the Board of Health is completely out of control.
Yep, and we are going to get back into that, what is going on with Larimer County's Department of Health. When we get back, you are listening to Liberty Revolt on 1360 KHNC, the roar of the Rockies.
So what's up, guys? If you're hanging out with us on the live stream, one thing you can do, and I'm talking to you as well, Brandon, is go to the Liberty Revolt page. There's this little bar with all these little buttons. You'll see 3 dots. You click on that one. Down, you'll see a little drop-down menu. It will have an invite your friends button. Click on it. Click on it and invite your friends. Brandon, I did that for Free State, Colorado. I think I got you a handful of likes, but it really is the best way for you guys to help support us without spending money. Although if you do want to spend money, Venmo at libertyrevoltmedia.com or go to the website and hit the donation button. We will have merch coming out real soon.
We're
working
trying
on that.
to figure out a way to redesign our website, but that is very pricey. So
Very pricey. I think we
help
should
with that-
sign up for a payment plan with Calvin. He's coming tonight, by the way.
Oh, he's going to be there tonight. Awesome.
Mhm.
We'll have to see. I think that we kind of need to take a more incremental approach. Just get the visuals down before we start adding the market and everything else.
I agree.
onto it,
I think we
because
should start with the cheapest thing.
just get the
And
professional.
Calvin, hopefully you're not watching the live stream right now. We should also shop around like good capitalists.
I prefer using friends and stuff, obviously, but we have to consider. But if you want to donate to the cause of getting the Liberty Revolt's webpage to look pretty, please don't hesitate. All money that we get is going to go straight towards
Back into the Liberty Revolt.
back in.
And if you want to buy some CBD products, we have Liberty Organics. Yuli, so great to see you in the live stream. Guys, if you're in the live stream, let me know that you're there. I'm going to give you guys a special shout out because it's always nice to see all of you. Are we coming back on? Oh, yes, we are.
this could be good.
We are coming back on. So my mission for 1360 KHNC is to turn it into the hub of messaging and activism for the freedom movement here in Northern Colorado. And you were just talking about some of the things going on that if you care about your freedoms and liberties, you should be paying attention to. Brandon.
Oh yeah, these COVID restrictions, it's never been more obvious who are the petty tyrants in our midst and who are the people who believe in freedom. I mean, we have an example like here in Weld County, where they're refusing to go along with a lot of the governor's orders. And then we got Larimer County. Unfortunately, Larimer County is bucking the trend, basically, no pun intended there, but going with Boulder County, instituting new mask mandates starting next week. And it's terrible, but it's something that, you know, we got to realize elections matter. Who's in charge of the county, who works at the Board of Health. That's what determines.
And culture matters, because I don't think it's in Larimer County. I mean, although I did betray Larimer County and move to Weld, partially for that reason. I think, you know, we saw with the recall election in California that overwhelmingly some of these people wanted to be governed harder, Daddy.
Governed harder, Daddy. So hard, Daddy.
So I think we have to reach people culturally. We have to get our messaging engaged.
And we have to also be identifying, hey, listen, you have these standards. They have these 4 criteria. Your ICUs have to be under 90%. Your COVID hospitalizations has to be under 65 people, just 65 in total. Your case per 100,000 has to be under 10. I think. Or I forget what that necessarily is, but at the end of the day, the issue we're running into is that, you know, if you look at the top 2 are the big ones. We have 91 people currently in the hospital for COVID in our ICUs at our 105% capacity. Now they use the phrasing that ICUs are at capacity because they know the average person is going to conflate that with the hospital itself is at capacity. And unfortunately, because they are manipulating language in that way, mind you, there is 91 people in all of Larimer County of hundreds of thousands of people that are currently being hospitalized with COVID, which is supposedly the single greatest disease we've ever seen. Which is like, that's beside the point, but people are being uninformed, and because they're uninformed, they are not taking the time to actually think to themselves, wait, do I really have to put this mask back on again?
And or is this mask effective?
Right, does it even work? Yeah, I mean, it's just another example. You got it, Kevin. It's really about these bureaucrats coming up with these arbitrary numbers, interfering in the market, kind of coming up with their own idea. They can make up whatever statistics they want. They can manipulate the numbers any way they want. If they want people to be masked, if they want to start shutting down businesses again. I mean, it's really scary times. These bureaucrats, these politicians, this government agencies have way too much power, too much control over our lives. And it's time that people stand up, speak out, take that power back.
Yeah,
absolutely. Speaking of which, Yuli Paulson in the live stream comments wants me to say that we have an upcoming election November 2nd. We have to overturn the school board in Weld RE4. 2 vacancies and 2 current members being recalled. Please help us spread the word. We stand for parent choices. Julie, who would you recommend that people vote for? I don't even know who's running on the school board.
I
haven't looked into it yet.
Do you know?
I don't.
So that's a big thing. I'm not in Weld, so I have an excuse. Haha, nerds. But I think it's very important. The schools, I always say my trifecta of government monopolies, education is the most important one. And there's a reason for that. If we can take back the school boards, we can start to, over time, alleviate a lot of the pressure that is being pushed down upon us by the politicians and bureaucrats, because you start to chip away at their guaranteed voter block. And you start to introduce ideas that go counter to what is being put out by the monopolized. I mean, I would rather no kids in a government school, but if the next best option is to at least have people who are not desiring to push forth these really pernicious and deceitful ideas onto children. But the school board's like, listen, if there's any parents that are listening right now that are sick and tired of what is going on with their children's lives, please reach out to your Weld County Republican Party, your Weld County Libertarian Party, anyone you can, to try to figure out, okay, so what can I either be a candidate or can I support a candidate? Because this is how we take our country back. It must be done at the grassroots level. And these are the movements. These are the times, those openings on the school board. This is one of the most golden opportunities to actually be active in your local political landscape and make a humongous difference.
So Julie says Trent Lisi for Weld RE4, Aaron Smith for RE4 recall, Jennifer Leiber and Reagan Price. Those are the 4 that she is endorsing for the 2 vacancies and the 2 recalls going on in Weld County's school board elections.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. I'm gonna try to make another shout out again. Julie is a really awesome patriot. She's in my LPR class. She's from socialist country. I'm trying to remember which country exactly.
Oh, you're doing great. But Brandon, so how much value do you put in the idea of taking the school boards back?
Oh, I think it's a great first step. I'm with you 100% that people just got to participate. You got to show up. For too long, parents have been ignoring what their children are taught at school. I mean, when you think about it, it's kind of frightening that your children spend so much time with these teachers. So many of them are just indoctrinating the kids 8 hours a day. And then how much time do they spend with their parents? 2 hours at night, 3 hours at night?
Maybe.
And half the time
watching Coco Melon videos.
and they
I
have
would
no idea what their parents are, what their teachers are telling the kids. And the kids don't necessarily want to volunteer that information. They don't want to get the parents upset. So yeah, get involved with your school board, start showing up, and ideally get your kids out of government schools. We've seen homeschooling increase upwards of 30% here in Colorado over the last year. And that's one of the most exciting things that's going on. So there's a lot of reasons to be optimistic.
Across the country, the homeschooling rate quadrupled. It went from 3% to about 11%. So it's like, and that's a very significant percentage. I think what COVID really did, what the COVID regime didn't see as one of the consequences of their actions, is that because children were now learning from home, parents all of a sudden got to see what was going on. Parents got to hear, wait a second, that's what you're being taught. Wait a second, they're telling you that because of the color of your skin, you are either somehow more privileged than or less privileged than someone else. And so one of the unforeseen consequences they had, and you saw this, by the way, there were teachers that were trying to tell students, hey, make sure your parents aren't seeing this stuff. Make sure your parents aren't finding out about this. And there was a reason for it. And, I think one of the biggest silver linings out of this COVID regime has been the realization that a lot of parents are coming to now that, oh my gosh, like my kids are actually in an indoctrination chamber for 8 hours a day.
Right. You thought Trump turned the temperature up. COVID and what's been going on these last 6 months have also turned the temperature up drastically. I've never seen so many people in my life this deeply engaged in politics. And a lot of them are getting engaged for the first time. And, they don't know their a-hole from a hole in the ground, right? But people are waking up, and I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Julie wants me to re-clarify Jennifer and Reagan are the members being recalled, not the ones she's endorsing. She's endorsing Aaron Smith and Trent Lisi.
So Aaron and Trent for school board, Regan and Jennifer for gone forever from the school board.
Correct.
Yes. Okay. Fair enough. And it's very important. I think that what you're noticing, and I've been saying this for a little bit now, as bad as things are getting during the COVID regimes, as bad as things get, there will be a proportional response towards the good, because no matter what goes on, good will always in the end find a way to triumph over evil. And we're seeing this playing out in our society today with people. It seems like it's getting worse, but as the regime tries harder to hold us in, people are more and more pushing back. Hence, every college football stadium having some version of the "Let's Go Brandon" chant going on. Like college students are
not you, Brandon, not you.
It's a good time to be a Brandon.
I mean, with the connotations of it, but no, it's I think that we're starting to really see people's eyes opening as to how important our culture is and how important it is to participate in the culture, and how it's not something you can't keep politics and culture separate. Politics is downstream from your culture. And I think we're really starting to see that mindset take a hold.
Oh, it's crazy. It's unbelievable. I mean, you watch some of these Netflix shows, some of these shows on on the internet and these streaming services and just on cable TV, and the messages they're pushing, this total authoritarian type of ideas, and they're pushing on people, and people just absorb it without even thinking twice, not realizing there's this basic brainwashing, mind control type of program out there to push people towards this slave type of mentality. And I think alternative media platforms and radio stations like 1360, that's really what can make the difference in giving people these alternative options to engage with.
Yeah.
And we've been exploding as a radio station in the last year because of some of this stuff. People are starting to wake up. They're starting to notice just how deceptive and bought off our mainstream media and our politicians are. And they're like, where can I turn for things? Well, independent radio is one of the few things that can't be censored, that isn't bought off. And we could have sold out. This whole time, we could have been getting more and more syndicated shows and national advertisers, but we've been intentionally trying to stay local at our own monetary loss, I suppose, or potential loss. It puts us at a monetary disadvantage, but we're working really hard to build a community of people who are reliant on each other and get information that's locally based out here and empower people like Brandon.
Yeah. The biggest way to push back against state power is through social power, which is why you see so much of the authoritarian left attacking churches, attacking families, attacking social organizations and groups of individuals, because they don't want us talking to each other, working together. They want us to be atomized and separate so that everybody has to rely on the state.
And we're going to be doing exactly what our founders did, hanging out at the tavern, getting drunk, dumping on the establishment, and trying to strategize ways to really stick it to them tonight at 6:00.
Heck yes, we are. And you are 100% correct. It is not a fluke that when the Declaration was drafted and when the Constitution was drafted, although the Constitution was kind of a coup, like I said before, I love AOC. AOC is beautiful. I'm a huge fan of the Articles of Confederation. But you get what I'm saying with that. Like, these things were drafted in pubs by people meeting together and exchanging ideas, and that the reason why you see the statists go after stuff like that is because when there's an open exchange of ideals, like, I'm never 100% right about everything. Nobody in this room is. Sure. But when we come together and have these discussions, we can get closer to legitimate, realistic solutions that will not only protect our rights and our individual liberties, but actually progress us towards an even better state. I'm an anarchist, but I consider myself a progressive because I want there to be legitimate progress for humanity moving forward. Doesn't mean that I'm going to go in and just want to tear everything down. It's about having measured conversations with good thinkers and legitimately being intellectually honest in your pursuit of the truth.
Right. And you have to have a citizenry that actually understands those principles and ideas that a free country relies upon, and they have to be engaged.
100%. They have to be aware of what's happening, and that's so much what we see with the social media censorship that's been happening over the last year. I mean, it's no mistake that these social media companies are censoring information upcoming elections. Here comes the 2020 election and how much voices were stifled to prevent people from discussing those things. Of course, the COVID quote unquote misinformation. Hey, don't discuss this. We can't talk about alternative therapies.
And it makes it.
He keeps doing this. Like, you talking about our social media overlords like they're degenerates. Come on, these are good, honest people.
Facebook, please help us in the algorithm. You know us. We're on your
love you,
side.
Zuck. You're my favorite, Zuck.
Please, but you are making it very hard for the libertarians to say that we should not have the government rein you in because sometimes you're a dick.
Yes. But it's like there is something to be said too. They do receive public funds. They do receive subsidies to the tunes of billions. By the way,
of course, they're working in coordination.
So if they're receiving my tax dollars, why do they get to limit what I'm allowed to say and what I'm not allowed to say?
It's a great point. And I think it brings up the larger point too, that as the state, as you were saying earlier, as the state continues to increase their control over society, it creates an incentive for entrepreneurs to come up with alternatives. Which is the reason why the radio station's getting bigger, why there's all these new alternative social media platforms, because people are going to look for workarounds, they're going to look for new opportunities to engage with each other outside of this controlled system.
I agree 100%. We're going to keep going on this topic when we return. You are listening to The Liberty Revolt on 1360 KHNC.
We
have the best music. I'm telling you.
It's pretty cool.
No, it's wonderful. This is a great show, and I'm so hungry. We're gonna have our classic convention. We're gonna have our
Our convention of the states right here in Johnstown.
They're gonna be talking about it in history books. There was a little pub called Cassidy's across the street from our radio station where the Liberty Movement got its legs.
Right. Yeah, I will pledge my life, my wealth, and my sacred honor.
You don't have any honor.
I have some.
Not really.
It's stained, it's tarnished. There's something there.
It's not like a bleached butthole. Your honor is.
My sacred honor is like that newspaper that the bum in the alleyway is using to keep him warm. It's just like...
Dude, I wish I had some sacred honor left. All I am is a degenerate at this point. I'm sitting here talking mean on people in social media and corporate media. Look what you're doing to me. These are good, honest, hardworking people. They would never manipulate elections and, lie and cheat. And oh my gosh, you guys saw what happened with Sanjay and Joe Rogan, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh, it's wonderful. I give Joe Rogan so much props. And he went hard in the paint against Sanjay Gupta. Did not. Sanjay's a doctor, and Joe's like, yeah, I don't care if you're a doctor. Let's answer some honest questions here. Why are you telling the people the same points that I have been making, right? Why are you saying something that won the Nobel Prize for its use on humans is
horse dewormer?
Horse dewormer. Oh, here. Throw this away.
Yeah, it is interesting. I didn't watch that whole one, but if you guys are interesting, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say this on our social media platforms, but I will. The episode where Brett Weinstein is talking about the problem with introducing vaccines into an active pandemic and how, because it's a very narrow immunity that takes a while to get to become effective, and people are coming in contact with the virus before it's actually become effective, it's creating evolutionary pressure for variants to manifest from this thing, and it is largely driving this wave of
100%. You don't introduce a vaccine
I don't
in
know.
the middle of a pandemic. 100%. I mean, you just got to look at the timeline. When did all the variants start appearing? Well, it's exactly around the time, just right after the vaccine was introduced.
Yeah.
I mean,
and I'm not a microbiologist, viral evolutionary guy, but that seems to make a lot of sense. And people who are those things are talking about them, and they're being shut down. And it's like the harder they try to shut people down, the more credence they're lending to them.
100%. What are they trying to hide? You don't have to hide from the truth, or you don't have to hide from a lie. You know what I mean? It's a lie. It's exposed. Right. It's obvious. But you had the truth. Censorship always goes after the truth.
A lie gets halfway around the world before the truth even has a chance to put its pants on.
Bad news spreads like wildfire. Good news travels slow.
And you are back with the Liberty
They all
Revolt
call me wildfire.
KHNC.
Everybody knows I'm bad news.
That is Bucky's beautiful, wonderful, amazing singing voice. We are joined today by Mr. Brandon Work of the Colorado Free State Movement. And what were we discussing before we went to break? I think we were discussing about how wonderful our politicians are and how we just need to continue to put trust in our government.
And big tech.
Always
and
will
the
do
media.
what's best for us. Yes. Everybody is just.
In fact, it's racist not to.
Yeah, no, it's if you say anything wrong about Don Lemon, you are a homophobic racist, okay?
I'm just going to say it, okay? I know this takes a lot of bravery in today's cancel culture. Harris Fauci 2024, okay?
Are you a Faucist now? Is that what this is?
Yes. And I think Don Lemon should be the press secretary.
Yeah, I would like Kamala to run and the Faucist movement to pick up some steam. It's like so what's really funny to me is, of course, Saul Alinsky talks about how you need to accuse the other side of what it is you do. And so naturally they accuse the right of being fascist. And I'm going to continue to bring up this point. When you look at Benito Mussolini and the fascisti, what did he describe fascism as, like at its core?
The marriage between corporate interests and the state.
Oh yeah, it's almost. Would you consider,
vaccine mandates?
Would you consider the government coming out and saying that unless you consume this corporate product, you will lose your rights and not be able to travel? Would you consider that kind of the blending of the corporate and the state?
I would consider that for the greater good.
Yeah, for the greater good. Oh, by the way, the mantra of every terrible communist regime that has ever existed. It's like How about you guys go watch Chernobyl? And there's a very poignant scene where after they have sent, basically thousands of young men to their deaths trying to remove radioactive material from the burned out nuclear reactor, the generals going around shaking their hands and they're saying, for the greater good, for the greater good, for the greater good. Because for the greater good is the easiest justification for any amount of evil, because it presupposes what you are currently doing is not necessarily a good act, but it will produce good in the long term. So you can justify anything for the greater good, no matter how terrible your current act is.
Oh, 100%. And that's where they're going with this whole environmental movement. To fight global warming, to fight climate change, you just need to kill yourself. You basically just need to curl up in a ball and die and leave everybody alone.
Yeah.
Get rid of your car, get rid of your gas lawnmower, stop eating meat, just become a complete little peasant, live in a subsistence lifestyle, and then the world temperature can return to normal.
For the greater good. So let me ask you guys this.
On the climate front, you're being told to do all those things by people who will not give up their giant motorcades and their private flights and their humongous galas, which, go in, their yachts and everything else. So it's like the irony is not lost.
Yeah, COVID and environmental alarmism really are the perfect problems for the statist solution, right? Or for a variety of reasons. I mean, I would say those industries are haunted by a tremendous number of fallacies directly because they revolve around redistributing things from some people to others. So you're going to have these special interest groups who are always going to be looking for reasons to push this persuasively and persistently as possible, right? For activists, it's a fundraising venture. For scientists, it's funding. For politicians, it's a power grab. I mean, both COVID and climate alarmism really coincide perfectly with how they're utilized by statist actors.
Yeah, it boils down to just do what the government says and we'll change the temperature. Do what the government says and we'll change the weather. Do what the government says and everybody will be safe and nobody will be getting sick.
When did this shift happen, though, in American culture? Because, we were founded on the idea that, hey, government sucks.
Against the very notion of for the greater good. We were founded on the idea of self-ownership and private property.
Yeah, exactly. We were founded under the ideas that the government is not inherently an entity out for your best good. The government is inherently a parasitic entity that is or the state, sorry, not the government, but the state. Is an inherently parasitic force that is always going to be seeking to claim more power. Yet somehow there was a shift in the mentality of the majority of Americans to the idea that somehow, some way, these governments that have consistently proven themselves incompetent and incapable of managing anything are somehow going to be able to manage and dictate your happiness to the level that everything is going to be solved.
Right. Take a wild guess at the two American industries that have the highest level of government intervention.
The medical industry.
Healthcare.
Yeah. And
education. The two ones that our friends on the left prop up as the failures of free market capitalism in the American system.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, of course our education system is going to fail. The only thing that there is the government. There's no incentive. And then they'll say stuff like, we need to pay teachers more. We need more funding. I'm like, no. Every single school district you're pointing out as having failed received more than the national average by a large amount, which is the second highest average in the world. Like, their schools are already getting paid enough. Imagine if you lived in Detroit, rather than giving the school $19.9 thousand per student, you gave that to the parent to dictate where they went to. That's how much is spent on every single child in Detroit.
Oh, right. Yeah, in Baltimore, which has, I think it's like the fifth most expensive school district, where they're spending $15,000 per student. $16.3 thousand, and it has some of the lowest scores anywhere in the country.
It's the second worst behind Detroit.
And I'll tell you this, you know why? Because every time a government program fails to meet its objective, which it almost always does, because the incentive is not to solve the problem, because then they're out of a job.
Yes.
Every time it fails, the solution is always the same. Well, if only you gave us more money and power.
The solution to government failure is more
government.
Like, how is it? If I worked at a business and the solution to me not making any sales was giving me more money to not make sales, I'd be like, no, you need to give me a raise so I can make even less sales moving forward. I feel like that wouldn't work out very well.
Oh, completely. And that's why they don't teach economics very well, at least in public schools, because then you figure it out pretty quickly. You say, well, incentives matter. it makes a difference if you're making a profit or a loss, and what does that represent in the economy?
Right.
Economic misunderstanding is one of the keys to the government monopoly. It's like I say, if you were
Right.
a conservative that understood economics, you'd be a libertarian.
Which is why I love the show lineup on Saturday. We have Karen Ann Harlos, who comes on here and she talks about consent. She talks about the proper role of government.
Pink flame of liberty.
The pink
We
flame
love
of liberty.
Karen so much.
She talks about libertarian philosophy, and then you have guys like Red Pill Truth, Steve Mitchell, who comes on KHNC, and he's a pharmacist, alternative medicine kind of guy. He talks about things the mainstream media won't tell you about, and then you have the Red Rift come on here and talk about the merits of tariffs and trade protectionism, and then you have the Liberty Revolt come on here and say that Reagan Price from Weld 4, the school board, voted in favor of masks for our kids and said the greater good is at stake. Those words exactly, and learn more about this. And then afterwards, you can come hang out with us and actually strategize and come up with a plan. You're not going to get this on your local Fox News affiliate.
Well, and speaking of elections coming up, I mean, talking about the school boards is huge. It's one of the most galvanizing issues and one of the most motivating issues for parents and voters across the state.
Finally.
We do have some ballot initiatives. I mean, most Coloradans have received their ballots in the mail by now. There's some big ballot initiatives, 3 statewide, that you really got to pay attention to. And yeah. And so with the first one is Amendment 78. It's an amendment to the state constitution. Needs 55% of the vote to pass. Basically, it would create a transparency and hand over these custodial funds. Because as we've seen, federal government's been pumping money across the country, this COVID relief money, going to the states. Amendment 78 puts that in the hands of the legislature where it can be accountable.
Yeah. And we're going to get back to the other 2 of these amendments when we return. You're listening to the Liberty Revolt on 1360 KHNC.
If you guys are still watching in the live stream, which I know y'all, because you're so beautiful and lovely, and we appreciate you very much.
You're
Give us a
everything
comment.
Bucky is not.
You're everything Bucky is not. You're everything I wish Kevin was.
Yeah.
Please engage with us in the comment section. Let us know who's there, what you're up to, what your thoughts are. And if, by the way, you guys are interested to calling into the radio show, the phone number, 970-587-5171. Y'all can call in, be on the air with us. Our live stream listeners won't hear you, so we ask that you please keep it short and simple so that we can restate it before we answer the question.
Yeah. What was that number again, Bucky?
970-587-5171. I'm going to put it down in the comment section
There we go.
right now. Call into the radio broadcast.
We're gonna try to do a better job of getting that number out on the very first segment because we want to have more community participation. We want you guys to be able to ask our guests questions, be able to call in and participate. But yeah, we appreciate you guys taking the time to watch this. We appreciate just your support is the only thing that is able to keep us going. And without you guys supporting us, this whole venture would probably collapse in on itself like a dying star. And trust me, you don't want me to go quasar. Astronomy joke. Let's go.
Nerd.
I'm a super nerd. My bad. I'm not gonna lie. So I've been pounding through some Star Trek Next Generation. It was like my mom.
Nice.
It was-
shit. Yeah.
Well, it was my mom's favorite show. Well, growing up, like she would always be watching it. And I'd watch some of it, but I was young and dumb, and it was like, this is kind of stupid. Mind you, I was also a massive Star Wars and Lord of the Rings nerd. So why I didn't watch Star Trek, I don't know. It is the Next Generation is such a good show, not just from the perspective of its nerdy and sci-fi, because it actually does get quite a bit wrong, but it tells really good storylines. It has really good character development. It does something that modern TV really doesn't do, which is acknowledge that there's a lot of moral conundrums that just don't have good options to solving them. But
It's awesome. I love it.
Liberty, we voto.
Arigato gozaimasu. You are listening to the musically gifted and musically autistic Bucky Dillon.
It's true. It's true. You know what? Before I got into politics and radio, I was a full-time musician. I was a drummer, but as you guys could tell, I should have been a singer.
Yeah, he used to inject the vaccine between his toes constantly. Much like the people of San Francisco, the homeless people in San Francisco.
Yeah, I had a good time.
Right? No, but we're talking local politics today. We have Brandon Work joining us from the Colorado Free State Project, and Brandon, before we went to break, we were discussing 3 major ballot initiatives that are coming up here on our next election, which I didn't even realize I hadn't gotten my ballot for. So thanks for reminding me on that one.
I do have a ballot at home.
Yeah, but so you mentioned the first one, ballot proposition 78. Would you mind just re-summarizing that one again really
Yeah,
quick?
Amendment 78 is a win for liberty if it passes. I really hope it does. Basically, as it is right now, money comes in from the feds. It goes to the governor's office. The governor can decide how to spend it on his own without any oversight from the legislature. It's basically a private slush fund for the governor, and that's a bad idea for
That's a
liberty.
horrible idea.
Also, the attorney general gets settlement money. So, tobacco settlement, that's been a big thing over the last 3 decades. And they can spend that money how they want. Maybe it's predetermined, but they get to decide how it's spent. Maybe the cause or the need for where it needs to go is determined, but they really get to decide. So Amendment 78, if it passes, that money will go to a special board in the state legislature. And they get to decide where the money goes.
How did
So
that
it's
even make
huge.
it onto the ballot? Because that seems like something Republicans, Democrats, and Libertarians can all agree is definitely necessary. How did that get past our political elites?
Yeah, 100%. So it was a citizen-driven initiative. So
Good.
there was people out there getting petitions, getting signatures, got to submit it to the Secretary of State. One of the leaders behind it is Michael Fields of Colorado Rising Action. For
Hey, we appreciate you.
For prosperity. Yeah, no, we got some great liberty activists here in Colorado doing good things. So Amendment 78 is a win for liberty. I really hope it passes. On the other side, one of the bad ones, I think, is an initiative, a proposition, a statutory change 119. Basically, if 119 passes, it would increase the taxes on cannabis, legal cannabis in Colorado, our great cash crop, by 5%. That money would go to after school. Talking about education, go to after school programs. Is LEAP funding, they're calling it. But basically, they're trying to steal more money out of the taxpayer's wallet. People who use cannabis are an easy target for most people. And then putting it into these government-run after school programs where they can further indoctrinate the kids and keep them away from their parents even longer. So
Yeah.
119, definite loss for liberty.
So they're hiding theft behind do it for the kids, kind of how they tried to hide ending end-to-end encryption behind do it for the kids. They love targeting children with everything. Everything that the left does in some way, shape, or form involves using children as a prop.
Oh, 100%. Tugs at the heartstrings. It gets people motivated to act, as we've seen with the school board stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting too with cannabis. They keep piling taxes and taxes and taxes
It's
upon
ridiculous.
cannabis. Eventually, it's going to get to the point where the black market makes more sense than the legal market because
And I'll be back out of radio.
it'll be cheaper. You regulate something too much and it goes back to the black market.
Yep.
And although that might be good for freedom on some level, I don't want to see people thrown in jail for growing and selling cannabis. So
It's true.
when
It's
I see
true.
that stuff,
The black market is always the worst option because the black market inherently involves some measure of enforcement that goes beyond the average citizen and does not have rules and stuff it must follow beyond just controlling the market. So
Or innocent people like
Yeah.
exotic pharmacists such as myself, or undocumented peoples are the ones who get ripped off and have no recourse that they can take without fearing for their legal status.
when you create a black market, you inherently create the possibility for more violence for equal violence that the state provides, right? But the state is a little bit better than the cartels when it comes to
Especially something like marijuana, which is a completely victimless so-called crime, right? It seems like merely a justification for the state to victimize everybody by forcing them to pay into their force apparatus when otherwise nobody's hurt.
It's
All right?
not like
I may think smoking pot all day is stupid. I don't do it because I'm unproductive, but I chose not to do it because I'm unproductive, and I trust other adult human beings to make that.
Yeah, I personally, I don't know about any cannabis stuff, but if I were to consume cannabis hypothetically, I would make sure to be responsible and hypothetically do it only at night before bed because, you have to be responsible with all things. But if I choose to hypothetically do it all day and sit on my couch and let my life slip away, that's my choice. That's my right as an individual to make, even though it'll probably suck for me. But you bring up a great point with the cannabis side of things, and it's not like our war on drugs, that didn't create an entire cartel
Right.
state.
Yeah, we're not like funding both sides of it.
The war on drugs is over. Drugs won.
Yes, 100% drug one. So, you said there was 3. We've gone over 2. So, just a reminder: Amendment 78 is a go, is a yes. Prop 119 is a no. Well, what is the last one?
120, Proposition 120 is also a go. It
Mm-hmm.
is a good win for Liberty. Lower property taxes.
Good.
So there's going to be some sticker shock. I don't know if you were paying attention last year. Amendment B passed on the 2020 election.
Stupid.
To kind of, they say eliminate the Gallagher Amendment. It didn't entirely do that, but basically manipulate it so that the government can get more money. They want to take more money from homeowners, and homeowners are, owning a home, that's the American dream. You think of all these people, these older people, they've saved their whole lives so they can buy a home. They've been living in their home. They're on a fixed income. If their property taxes go up, it could price them out of a home. That's one of the most terrible things that can happen is you don't even own your own home. You're paying rent to the state, rent to the government every year. So
Absolutely.
to increase that burden on homeowners in Colorado is criminal and it's shameful. So 120 is a good way to combat that and push that back and bring property taxes a very modest relief, but it's a good step in the right direction.
The government is always going to need to seek new avenues of revenue, and their revenue does not come from production, but from theft. The government's revenue stream is you, the people, and your product, your labor, all the good things you contribute to our society is what they prey on in order to make themselves functional and provide for them. So anytime you get the opportunity to seize a little bit more of your property and your assets back for yourself and keep it away from the government, you should be taking that opportunity every time.
Oh yeah, I can guarantee you, come 2022 with the property tax bills, once Amendment B kicks in, they're going to be skyrocketing. People are going to be up in arms. It's going to be, it could get to the point where it's bad. We're approaching, complete third world socialist level tax rates. It could happen. So Amendment 20 or Initiative 120 is a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
Excellent. Hey, Julie, I noticed you are still in the live stream, which seems impossible if you are on your way to the Libertarian meet and drink. You're listening to the Liberty Revolt on 1360 KHNC.
I wish we had a 2 hour.
She responds, yes.
Is she the Weld County GOP vice chair? Is that the same one?
I think she might
From
be.
Columbia?
Yeah.
From Columbia.
We have a lot of Republicans coming to the Libertarian meet and greet,
Right.
which is fun, which is totally fun. I almost invited Ron. Yeah, I thought I was going to.
I told you what happened. So I told him yesterday, I go, hey, I'm taking over Larimer County. He goes, let me know what you need. You want the data? I can get you the data. I can get you whatever you need. He's all about it. Because he's smart enough to understand and realize that on the local level, as I always say,
We need to cooperate where
Republican and Libertarian
possible.
is
Right.
very minimally separated. So long as they don't come after the weed dispensaries in Larimer County, I don't like. That's about the only thing that they could come after. That I would disagree with, and he's never going to do that. But understanding that the fight is at the local level, the fight is on our grassroots, it's on our city blocks. That's where we can take the power back. All COVID did was show, hey, if this federal mandate goes out, this county sheriff's not going to enforce. But all of a sudden, it doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
If we refuse to participate in their mandates and stuff like that, they disappear.
Yep.
And
Local self-governance is the key. That's the goal. That's how we win.
so it's it sounds like we've got a decent crowd out there. I'll just chill here and keep it under control. But it's the local. All the COVID's really shown me is that there is so much power in the local side of things. Like if your city chooses not to enforce things, there's nothing you can really do. And that started with the Democrats saying, "Hey, we're going to have sanctuary cities." Thank God that backfired.
Right.
And
Second Amendment sanctuaries now.
Never include me in anything you ask. Do I need to keep
always
this on
the
over
best drums. I will never have an intro music without great drums.
here? Should this thing be on?
Nope. I don't think so. Are there things plugged into the back of it?
There's a mic output, but that's it. There's no inputs. No, I'm just going to leave it on.
Probably leave it in.
Almost died. Woo! We are still live
We
on the
are
live
still here.
stream. Facebook.com/Liberty Revolt Media. YouTube.com/Liberty Revolt Media. Don't like, don't follow, don't subscribe, don't leave a comment, don't hit the bell, don't get the notifications. In fact, please dox us on Antifa blog forums. It really does help our competitors.
That's a great sense to have. So just to recap, since we're coming into our last segment here, we've got Weld County's got local school boards that are up, and we want Mr.
Aaron
Aaron Smith and Trent,
and not Reagan.
And then we want Reagan and Jennifer out. We got 3 propositions coming up. We got 78, which is a go.
Yes.
Vote yes on 78. It will bring transparency to the government. No on 119 because that would
Raise taxes on cannabis.
the raise taxes on cannabis, and then
Yes on 120.
to keep some stability in our property tax rates. Am I correct?
100%. You
Awesome.
got it. And that's the statewide initiative. So that's everybody across Colorado if you're registered to vote. There's a lot of local, county, city, municipal ballot initiatives. Do some research. Pay attention to it.
Yes, 100%. For those of you who are still listening to us right now, just the local politics, again, the grassroots level, your city block is where you can have the most impact and where you can produce the most change in your life. There is nothing the federal government can do if your city refuses to participate in their mandates and there is nothing that the federal government can do. But in order for that to manifest, we, the people, must be participating in the system, and it's about time our voices were heard.
It begins with civic understanding, civic engagement, and cultural outreach. It begins with meeting your neighbors and becoming friends with them. That's why I invited Republicans, Democrats, and people who don't care at all about politics to come hang out with some libertarians tonight and talk, because hopefully we'll sell them on some ideas.
Yeah.
But more than anything else, we'll establish good relationships, because the worst thing possible is that we stop talking to each other.
And so before we get out of here, Brandon, why don't you give the people a little bit of a business pitch, let them know where to find you, what upcoming stuff you've got going on. We got about a minute and a half here left.
Definitely. Check out freestatecolorado.com, freestatecolorado.com. You'll see a very recent interview that just was 2 days ago about these ballot initiatives. If you're on Telegram at all, check out t.me/freestatecolorado. I'm pretty obsessive about updating that. Tons of information. I'm on Facebook. Try not to use it too much, though, because it's evil. But Free State Colorado, check it out. Yeah, definitely get engaged. If you want to help me build a culture of liberty here in Colorado, please reach out and let's connect.
Absolutely. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on today. This is the Liberty Revolt here. We're one of the few voices that's actually out there standing against the mainstream media, but we're not dwindling. We're only growing. We're only getting more powerful. And
That's right.
1360 KHNC is one of the main mechanisms behind that growth.
Absolutely, guys. If you would like to support us, Venmo at Liberty Revolt Media, or just invite your friends to follow us on social media, YouTube or Facebook. We are less than 50 people away from 1,000 likes and we're over 1,000 followers on Facebook alone.
Yeah, well, ladies and gentlemen, you have been joining us on the Liberty Revolt on 1360 KHNC.
Sorry.
Have a wonderful rest of your weekend.
I have a beautiful lady texting me in the comments section right now.
And Bucky's about to transform into
Hasta la
Drunky.
vista, babies. Yeah.
Have a wonderful weekend,
Drunky Dylan,
everyone.
1360 KHNC. All right, guys. Thanks for hanging out with us in the live stream.
Thank you guys so much.
We hope you have a wonderful. Be nice to your neighbors.
Bye. Have a beautiful time.